Unfortunately, YouTube put this warning label on my other video that was talking about the man whose ex wouldn't visit him in the hospital. But the rest of my video was fine. So that is the reason why it's a repost talking about men's loneliness and women's role in helping with it. So please still go ahead and give this a view and a comment. Thanks. I really believe that the male loneliness crisis is self inflicted, and it has a lot to do with. I know people are going to call this cliche to talk about, but I do believe that it is the patriarchy because the patriarchy says that masculinity is everything that is opposite of being a woman. So that is how they measure their masculinity, is doing everything that is just not a woman, and having feelings and being having emotions and being able to show emotions has always been boxed into what it means to be a woman. So it has jacked them up to the point where they can't do all of that. And then you have these men that come to social media saying, what are we going to do as a society? No, this is going to be, what are men going to do to rectify the situation? Let's listen to Travis a little bit.
Why is it that men's issues are completely overlooked right now? And that's not to take away from anything that women go through, but rather we should be working to build a society where everybody's issues are important. Because at the end of the day, when we have more men who are thriving, more women are going to thrive, and vice versa. But I am genuinely curious, because I have some theories of my own, but why do you think we overlook so many of men's issues? Why is it that men's
I think men's issues are not the forefront of women's minds because women's issues tend to be navigating men's issues. So women have to navigate safety issues, femicide, other types of violence within marriage. It's like financial abuse, other kind of issues like the stress of handling the household, just trying to get these men to participate within their lives. And so women's issues stem from men. So we can't navigate our issues and think as a society, we have to tackle men's issues. What are men responsible for? Now, I'm going to let him go into this next video as well. And I might stop as he's saying some of these things, but let's listen to this.
Men's issues are complete. Which men's issues are being overlooked? Well, the first one is that...
Okay, so let's look at this question that Magnolia asked him. Which men's issues exactly are you talking about? Some issues that are currently being looked at more closely: misogyny, violence, narcissism, and antisocial behaviors. So that is some of the issues that women have to face where it comes to men. So men need to kind of tackle that because that's what women have to see. Have to deal with. So it's like we can't be dealing with men's loneliness crisis while simultaneously dealing with misogyny, violence, narcissism, and antisocial behavior, not participating in the home life, and all the other things that women deal with. But let's listen to his response.
Is that about 80% of suicides are men. About 100 men die per day from suicide. Over 80% of drug-related deaths are men. About 90% of workplace deaths are men. And again,
a lot of that has to do with the patriarchy, like I said early on, because the patriarchy has decided that everything of women is not manly. So learning how to deal with emotions, unlearning the fact that men are not just providers and protectors, that they can actually participate in the home life, that they can be more than just their job, that they don't have to drown themselves in drugs and alcohol, and that getting a pew-pew isn't necessarily what the end all should be all, because they are successful at self-deletions at a higher rate. The whole workplace situation has to do with the fact that many of them just don't pay attention to rules, don't care about rules, and want to do whatever the hell they want to do. So a lot of these things are self-inflicted anyway. At what point do men listen to women saying that they need to be careful, because being careful is probably something that a beta simp would do, and masculine men just go for it and all of that? So, what are men going to do to turn around these things that patriarchy has put on them? Like, let's go for it. Let's be confident. And that's the passionate, angry. Those are the only emotions that they can show without being labeled something of a slur that has to do with being a woman, like being gay. Anything that has to do with being feminine is seen as a slur to men. So that's the reason why they have to navigate many of these things alone. But then they, like this man, keeps trying to compare and contrast with the things that women are doing to fix women's issues. And many of these men think that women are supposed to be bringing them along when many of the issues that women face are because of them.
None of that is to take away from the issues that women face whatsoever. And this topic hits home for me because my father died when I was 7 to a drug overdose. He did not deal with his emotions, he was not vulnerable, and instead, he masked his emotions by doing drugs. But the entire point that I was trying to make with this video is, it's okay to highlight men's issues, men's mental health struggles. Too often, they're neglected from both men and women. And unfortunately, I think my video highlighted a very ugly truth that a lot of people in general will just brush these issues off to the side and say women have it worse. And that's not.
This gets so irritating to me. Like, why can't he highlight men's issues without even bringing women into the fold? Like, and that's what a lot of them do. When women are talking about things that women go through, they jump into our comment section to say, well, men, blah, 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 men, blah, blah, blah. Why can't they just do that without trying to hijack the post? Because they know that men don't care about men's health. Just like when it's Men's Health Day or Men's Health Month, the men are not participating. They're waiting for women to jump on board and do the work for them.
The point is, we all struggle, both men and women, in different ways, and we need to do better as a society to fix these issues. Really need to start helping each other out. Yesterday I posted a video about how...
So it said, it cut off a little bit, but it said men really need to start helping men out.
How men's issues aren't being recognized, and there were a lot of comments about how it's not a woman's job to fix men's issues. And that's true. It's not a woman's issue or problem to fix men. Should they support us? For sure, but it's not their problem. We need to work on supporting each other up, building each other up, both emotionally and physically when we need it. Too often, men don't have other men to go to. And that creates a sense of isolation within all of us where we feel alone, like we don't have anybody. And when we hide emotions, we turn to other outlets, drugs, alcohol, anger, which isn't healthy and ultimately affects the entire society negatively. Men really... If you're a lonely man in your 20s, you need to listen to this. Too many young men are focusing on the wrong things. They're spending too much time playing video games. They're isolating themselves away from friends, family. They're turning to drugs and alcohol instead of bettering themselves, which will ultimately better society. And when you turn to these different outlets instead of doing actual work, it creates a sense of isolation and loneliness within a lot of young men. I've been there. And oftentimes a vindictive behavior or vindictive beliefs about society in general. So instead of turning to these other outlets, these negative outlets, find a community of friends who care about you and who want the best for you. Go to the gym, start working out, start focusing on your career and passion, because when you do, everything else falls into place. Yep.
God gave us.
Okay. So that's that man. And I think that he got enough negative feedback, especially from women, saying that this is something that needs to be tackled by men. But I don't believe that they are at the bottom of the barrel yet. I don't think that they're at their bottom yet because they are not willing to tackle it. And so this is something that came out on CBS, where these men are taking a men's retreat to talk about their feelings and all of that. And like, I don't know. There are a lot of lonely men out there, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that everything that they use to measure manhood is just the opposite of what it is to be a woman. And because a lot of the times they don't see women as people enough to like really lean into treating us as human. And for whatever reason, their friendship bonds with other men is really superficial. But anyways, I'm going to end it there. I'm going to end it with letting you see this video. Go ahead and then just let me know what you think of all of this.
A whole lot more testosterone than the other half of the world. We should enjoy it.
This is Everyman, a guys only weekend getaway in the Berkshires of Massachusetts.
How you doing? Good to see you.
No drinking, no drugs, no phones. Roughly 50 men placing a premium on authenticity, opening up about struggles men often bury, like loneliness.
We can just be raw and real with each other.
We met Brad from Idaho, John's from Connecticut, Dan lives in Maine. Have any of you struggled with loneliness?
Yeah, I would say I'm struggling with it right now.
And what does that loneliness feel like to you?
Maybe fragility or insecurity.
Does it hit you a lot?
It's low-level consistent.
Loneliness is a poverty of the spirit. What about you? Loneliness an issue?
I don't resonate with loneliness as much as I do my need for belonging.
Absolutely, I have experienced loneliness in the past.
If you weren't working at it, would loneliness come back to bite you?
I would be back where I was 2 years ago, which is when I'm home, I'm not present.
But it's not just regular guys exploring isolation. From Lenny Kravitz to Joe Rogan to Dwayne Johnson.
I know what it's like to be depressed, loneliness, multitude of things.
Even the most macho celebrities now talk about the richness of vulnerability.
As men, we've traditionally been put in a box and given a very small range to express our emotions.
Everyman co-founder Lucas Crump.
There are a lot of men that are walking around not necessarily overtly a loner, but feeling very lonely.
Loneliness can be rough on a man's health. It carries the same physical risks as smoking up to 15 cigarettes or having 6 alcoholic drinks every day. Think about that and this. Roughly 1 in 7 men say they have no close friendships.
Since we moved to Maine, making really close friends has been strangely hard.
In this crisis of connection, one of the Everyman messages, whatever you're feeling, share it.
Hey, I'm having a hard time in my marriage. And that's not something guys usually talk about. So you ask everybody, you're like, who else? And all the hands go up. It's like, oh, I'm not alone.
Their spouses or partners often encourage them to come here.
And there's something about letting our guard down and having fun with other guys that's hard to replace.
It's a lot of work,
Can be.
but it can be fun at the same time.
Absolutely.
Connection. It's like building a fire. Keeping it alive takes work, but the warmth is well worth it.
Is that gonna work?
For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in Sheffield, Massachusetts.